Hello, everybody. I'm recording this on a Thursday, which is one of my favourite days of the week because it's nearly Friday. We've had Wednesday, which is great because that means that we've had hump day and we've got over the hill. And as my guest today, Pien will tell you that it just feels good on a Thursday, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I love Thursdays for exactly the same reasons.
Yeah, it feels like a day full of possibilities. You out there can have lots of possibility in your life today as well. But what you're going to have to do is just wait a minute and hold on and just watch this video first, and then we'll come back and bring all of that possibility and those wonderful enchantments that are ready for you to the table. Okay, so are you ready for this?
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
Hello. So your name is Pien, as in bean, which
But
is
then
what
with
you
a P.
tell, but with a P.
Yeah.
Where's that name originate from?
So I'm originally from the Netherlands, and it's a traditional Dutch name. It's my actual name, actually. It's not just a stage name or anything.
No.
It's an actual name.
Which part of the Netherlands are you from?
I'm from a small town, like 20 minutes from Amsterdam.
Ah, I do love the Netherlands, ever so much. Yes.
Yeah, we're a funky little place.
Yeah, I
So-
spent a bit of time in. I think you pronounce it Zwolle. Zwolle.
Zwolle. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Never heard anyone outside of the Netherlands going to Zwolle. My family actually lives near Zwolle.
Yeah.
Quite funny.
It's a great place, and there's a particular kind of beverage that comes from that region, which they put into clay kind of jars or clay bottles,
Uh-huh.
and it's called something like Swallow Drunk, and it makes you very drunk.
Oh, well, I'm not surprised. Like, if you even look at our beers, that's way more alcohol than you guys are used to in the UK. So,
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's why you have such small bottles, though, isn't it?
exactly.
Yeah, but you don't drink like the British drink, because the British drink to get drunk. We'll go off on this tangent for a minute. Whereas actually the Dutch drink in a very sociable way, and there's a lot of talking involved between drinks, and it just seems to go on for a long time.
Hmm.
Yeah, is there something about before we get started on the music? But is there something about Dutch culture that is more about good conversation? Do you think?
I think because we're very much a no bullshit kind of country, like mentality. I think that's why we go deep very quickly. And especially at the pub or just when you meet someone random on the street, we will love, not like the Americans would love to hear your life story, but we do like to cut the crap. And that is I do actually miss that sometimes. I spend half of my time in Amsterdam and half in London, and it's just funny how when I'm in London I miss it, and I'm back in the Netherlands, for me now it's just too much sometimes. But it no,
That's
I
funny,
love it.
isn't it? Yeah. What is it brought you to the UK? What brought you to London?
Well, it's a funny story. So I actually always wanted to live in London. I remember this very vividly. I was like an 8-year-old girl playing in my neighborhood, like on the street with a few friends. And then there was this one moment when I just looked around me and was like, there must be more than this. And my grandmother, my mum's mum, I unfortunately never met her because she died 2 weeks after I was born. But she lived in London in the 70s and was always
Right.
very fond of like British culture. She was a nurse in Camden back in the day. And I don't know why, but I always had that love for London. And I used to go with my mum every year for a weekend. Go to London, see some shows, go to museums. And I always felt really at home.
Yeah.
So it was almost like a no-brainer for me that I would one day live in London or be in the UK. And I absolutely love it.
It's really funny because I have that same feeling. I mean, I used to live. Well, I was brought up just sort of north of London, but spent a lot of time in London. I now live miles from London in the southwest of England, which is beautiful. Don't get me wrong; it's absolutely beautiful. There's lots of fields, cows, sheep. You know, there's not the hustle bustle there, and but it does always feel like home going back to London. There's something about it, and I've always wondered. I know that a lot of my family on my mother's side are from London, but I don't know much about their history, and I've always wondered where their history goes and what's what was there.
Such
actually.
a shame.
Yeah.
You don't know that. Although maybe you can try what is it, ancestry or something?
Well, we started doing a bit of that. And I only got a little way back. My wife annoyed me because she started doing it as well, and she got all the way back to something like the 15th century.
Oh wow!
On her mother's side, and actually found out she was descended from archbishops.
Wow!
Irish archbishops, which is is pretty close to royalty, really. So, but I reckon I'm from the workhouse.
Hey, you never know.
I just reckon I'm from a fairly poor life in London, and it was quite rough and it was quite hard. But it just feels like that. There just feels like this connection. Are you the sort of person that, given the nature of your music, which seems to take from lots of different places, should we say, are you someone that's really quite moved by being in certain places and finds that you feel kind of an affinity with certain places?
It's crazy because I never been homesick as a kid. I'm very adaptable when it comes to moving around. Before I moved to London, I lived in Scotland. I lived in 3 different cities in the Netherlands. Also with traveling, I'm super easy and adaptable to any place. And it's funny for me. It's not necessarily places, but just buildings. Yeah. So, for example, when I was a little girl, I did loads of musical theater. So every time when I'm in a theater, it doesn't matter where I am, I always feel a little bit like coming home or a sense of feeling safe. And so I have it with especially like older kind of theaters, old school cinemas. There's this gorgeous cinema in Amsterdam. That's, I believe, the oldest one in the country or in the city that survived the war. And it's just this beautiful, like roaring 20s kind of place. So every time when I'm in a cinema that's similar like that, I also feel at home. And it doesn't really matter where it is, if it's in Europe, if it's in America, in Canada, it doesn't really matter.
You should come to the West Country sometime, because you probably like there's some places down here that are sort of like really old cinemas, and
lovely.
Yeah, and they've still got like this little booth.
Yeah.
Where you buy your tickets and stuff like that. And there's some venues like that they're cinemas, but you can play gigs there as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm thinking of places like the Tivoli in Wimborne, for example. Yeah, you should.
Oh, that sounds good. I should. Yeah.
Fantastic place, and it's just goes steeped in kind of culture. Last time we went there, we went to see a band, and they were quite heavy. And next door, there's this little tea room that's attached to it, and there was these old ladies in their pinnies, and they were like serving tea. And it's just, I know how amazing is that? It's just, you just don't get that, do you? With that, like, things are very clinical in a lot of places these days, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you not like that? I don't like that.
No, I'm a bit of an old soul, so I like it. Like, I collect vinyl. I buy my clothes like secondhand. I don't know. I have this attraction to old buildings, and I guess that's of course well, maybe it's because I kind of grew up in Amsterdam with all the old buildings and stuff, so I'm very familiar to it and used to it. But I remember when I lived in Scotland, I lived in Glasgow, and what I really loved about it is that it's so old and rough and different like types of architecture, and I don't know, and it always really charmed me to know that a place has a story, and just the idea of a city, like for example, Edinburgh, or there's any like old city that's been there for centuries and has all these stories that I will never like hear about, or when I do, but are not enough because there's so many stories. So I will never hear all of them. That just, I don't know. I like to fantasize about that sometimes. Like, oh, like hundreds of years ago, it must be like this. And it would be so great to see what that was like. Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know why. It's funny because my boyfriend really wants to move to like a modern apartment, but I just like the cozy, maybe slightly crooked places that it just has charm and like high ceilings and fireplaces and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm just a sucker for those.
Well, look, I'm gonna throw some balance into the equation here, because we live in a building that's 150 years old, right? And we've got bits of it that we've done funky, right? So there's bits of it that are modern, but it has its quirks.
Good.
You know, it definitely has its quirks. I mean, when we moved in, the people that we bought it from, they get this, folks, they'd actually covered over the fireplace in the living room. Yeah, they'd literally like put pallet wood over the front of it, and yeah, I know, terrible. So we spent ages sort of like bringing it all back, and making it feel like it, you know, most of it feels quite old again, still with little patches of modernism throughout. So you could find some balance.
You could do a bit of both. Like, I'm not saying that my house is like covered in like, I don't know, old stuff and whatever, and that's the way I like it. It's of course a balance, but then I think I would prefer old building new stuff than a new building.
I totally agree every time.
Yeah.
What's your boyfriend's name?
Henry,
if you're listening, old building, new stuff.
Exactly.
Every time, Henry. Every time. It's just got more personality.
Right? Yeah. I like it when there's a story and a character in not only people, but also in buildings and music. And
you need to look. You need ghosts in your house. It's important.
Well, only if they're nice.
Well, they always nice. Always nice. But if you're a musician, they love it. Simple as that. Now, you need to explain to some people who are listening, who are going to read that underneath your name, Indie Americana, and they'll be like, well, what is that? So, I mean, you've kind of, you know, given yourself that as a sort of genre. What do you determine as that?
Well, I'm actually really happy you're mentioning it, because it's really funny, because I indeed just, I must admit, I invented the genre, but I just came up with it because I was working on my debut EP, which will be released in May on the 23rd. And I was just looking for my sound for the last 2 years. And I always love country music. I always listen to country music, Americana music, very folky stuff. But then when I was making my EP, I was like, I'm not folky enough. I'm not country enough. I like indie, because indie is just this weird kind of, nobody can put his finger on it.
Little bit alternative.
Yeah, you're alternative, but not too much that it's like unattractive for people to listen to.
Yep.
It's easy in the air kind of thing. And then I was like, oh, but actually, Indie Americana sounds very catchy. Sounds good. So that's actually why I came up with Indie Americana. Yeah.
And when you say you were trying to, you know, you're developing your sound, I think one of the really key aspects of your sound is your vocals, your the way that you sing. Where did that come from?
It's funny because so I spent most of my life in musical theater, did a bachelor's in it and a master's that actually got me to Scotland. And it's funny because I had this teacher in my undergrad who always told me, you need to do something with your lower register, because that's going to take you places. And it's funny because I never really thought about it because it came so natural to me. And I think that's because I always preferred male bands and artists back in the day, which is funny because now I actually listen more to women. But when I was 10, 12, my dad was a huge U2 fan. And my mom listened to a lot of jazz. And of course, the greats, especially the women, really use their lower register in jazz. So I think I secretly just been inspired by that to just go for that lower part of my voice. And I don't know, it's just a comfortable place for me. It feels closest to who I am and to my heart in a way. And although I do like to play at my higher register as well to make it a little bit more airy and high, like Joni Mitchell does. She inspired me a lot writing wise, but definitely vocally as well. And I think
can see that because she used to move between her registers. Yeah, right.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I have, like in my most recent single, Not Yet, I'm flipping around with high and low.
Well, you see, the inspiration was there because, I mean, you mentioned U2 as well, but I mean, Bono does that, doesn't he? Not? I mean, Bono always did that. He actually has quite a low voice, right? It's somewhere between bass and baritone, like his natural voice. But then he sings in this, head falsetto as well. So it's right. He's, maybe that's what you are the female Bono.
Maybe. Well, if I can get it as successful, that would be great. Maybe, although I'm not saying that he can't talk about peace and stuff, but it's getting a bit too much. But no, it's funny. I have this one song called A Song for Someone from U2, and that's always in my set. And then I realized, oh, actually, this could be a cool Christmas song. So I recorded a Christmas version of that one. And I released that, was it back in December last year? So it's funny, it's always kind of with me. And I love it. And it's funny because when I say at gigs sometimes, like, oh, the next song is actually a cover originated by U2. You always get this weird, like, not really a boo, but people aren't super excited about U2 anymore, which I think is a shame because they're so nostalgic to me. And when I think of U2, I just think of my dad and I just listening to it in the car and him just being a big U2 nerd and telling me all about it and the albums and stuff. But you know what? I just like them and I'm not ashamed to say that. And I will keep playing that song until I'm tired of it. So,
well, I think it's one of those things that, I mean, they were the biggest band on the planet at one point, and whenever someone does that, and they came from quite punky background, etc., and they had their moment in the sun, and but I think when some people see a certain level of fame and then everything else that goes with it, they just sort of then turn away from it, but that you can't sort of take that away from the music, really. I mean, what they've achieved over the years is tremendous as just that, Nucleus 4-piece, etc., and some great songs along the way. The Joshua Tree still stands as an absolutely brilliant album. So the other thing with your voice as well, though, is that I almost feel like at times your voice is very much like an instrument as well. Oh, if that makes sense to you.
I've never heard someone describe it like that before. So how come?
I just feel like there's an element where there's at times when you're singing, it sort of moves between singing and almost playing an instrument. Are you conscious of that at all?
Well,
you probably not, because you look surprised.
No, but not in that I use it like that, and I'm like deliberately like, oh, I want to use it as an instrument. I think it's just coming from a place of I like to. We probably have seen it a lot. I like to speak with my hands. I like to move when I'm on stage. I like to be flowy and moving around, and I always try my music to go somewhere and not just be at one point, maybe go
Yeah.
up and that's it. I like to move around, meander around notes. So I think it's just some sort of instinct thing.
It's quite a jazz element, and I
Yeah.
think it's so it's back to your inspirations again.
Yeah.
But I also think it's something to do with how you hold your notes and your breathing, etc. So and that may come from the fact that you've come through kind of musical theatre and now you're sort of
Absolutely.
traditioning that or transitioning that into sort of more sort of poppy elements. It's
No,
not.
absolutely. And it's funny because I used to be very ashamed of my musical theatre past because it doesn't have the best reputation, especially if you're going from musical theatre into being a musician. Although I always believed that I wanted to be a musician, but I thought musical theatre was the safer option for me to go into for some weird reason. It happened. I'm not regretting that at all because I had blast, and I really have to thank my teachers in my undergrad for shaping my voice the way it is, and also then allowing me to take a step back and do it my own way. And I think that's been always a thing in my life, that I want to do things my way, even if it takes me longer to get where I want to be. Or I don't know, maybe it's also just my stubbornness. I'm a very stubborn person, and curious at the same time. So I want to explore and take things here and there and then do it my own way. And that's also probably why I can't settle for just one genre. And that's why I'm an indie Americana artist and not just Americana or just indie or pop or whatever. Yeah.
I think it gives you real longevity in the game, personally. Because I think that seriously, I think it does, because I think you've got quite a unique voice, and you I think you have quite a unique way of writing as well. That's really refreshing, because there's a lot of cookie cutter out there at the moment. You know, are you kind of aware of that? Just how much some people are just looking to replicate, you know, what works, whereas actually you're trying to do something different.
Absolutely. And it's funny you're saying that, because I get so annoyed sometimes with all the songs that sound the same, or the writing that's just horrible. And I'm not saying I'm an amazing, like the most talented writer ever. I still have to learn a lot about that as well. But I know that my lyrics always come first. So when I write a song, lyrics go first and then the vocal. I'm not here to make music to show off my vocal skills. That's not what I'm doing. And I think it's also, I try to be really honest, and just maybe that Dutch directness, trying to slip that through. And then in one song, I literally have a song that's called Old, that's a little bit more poppy, that it is what you see is what you get kind of attitude. But I feel with the work on the EP that I made now, or is about to come out in a few months, is my best work, because I found the right balance between that super directness and being poetic or playful with the words.
What's your favorite line from a song that you've written so far?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna put it down to the EP because that's the most like fresh in my mind. I would say I'm very proud of actually the title track of the EP, and that's called According to Plan. Because my producer really pushed me in getting the best out of my writing as possible. I remember just sending him the demo and the lyrics, and he was like, I think you can do this better. And I was like, oh, okay. I never heard that from a producer before, but okay, cool. And then I rewrote it, and then he was, yeah, but still this and this and this part, you need to give it another shot. And I got a bit frustrated because I was like, well, it's my song. I'm not paying you to like co-write it with me or to give me feedback on that. But I was actually really happy he said that, because I feel that's not necessarily my best song or the best song from the EP lyrically, but just the song that I worked the hardest on lyrically. And
do you know what though? Actually, sometimes if you find those relationships, in life and in music, where people in the right way in love can push back.
Oh yeah.
Right, they're worth keeping.
I know. It's funny because actually I work with 3 different producers on this EP, and he was the only Dutch person. And I think maybe it's just this connection that, you can say that to each other. Because I would say the biggest difference between British culture and Dutch culture is not just the directness, but also allowing yourself to go straight in it. So, for example, you Brits like to walk circles around it, and we just cut through the crap, even if it can be painful, but always in a respectful manner. At least that's always how I see it. And I think he just knew that I could do better. So instead of like, oh, maybe you should rewrite it, or have you ever thought about changing lyrics? He was just like, no, you have to rewrite it, or I have a feeling it will be better. And it was all coming from a place of love. And I really can't wait to work with him again, because he did an amazing job on the production. It's a very dreamy Americana, almost like a Tame Impala inspired kind of song. And I'm really happy about it, because it's the only love song on the EP, and I don't really like to write love songs anymore, because I feel, especially as women, there's so many other things we can write about than silly love songs. But I don't know, the story with this one, so the song is basically about how love unexpectedly entered my life, and that was all according to plan, because I thought it would be different, but it all happened according to plan, so it should be fine. And yeah, I don't know, it's just a very special song. And that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to name the EP after it, because I was like, this is the big thing of the album. Is it according to plan? And is that according to plan? Or is it going to go differently? And will that be according to plan? And it's just a fun little like thing you can keep like talking about and thinking about. And I like that you keep thinking about stuff. And that's what I hope when people listen to my songs, that they keep thinking about the lyrics and finding new perspectives.
Are you drawn to people that keep you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because otherwise it's boring.
Right.
And I love interesting people who keep me like on my toes and thinking about things and questioning things.
But that's one of my favorite subjects to talk about.
Yeah.
Kind of outside of music or just in general, right? It's something I write about regularly on various sites. Is the fact that we now live in a kind of culture where there's so many people that just cancel people.
Oh, yeah.
In order to just purvey what they believe. So that they're not willing to be challenged. They're not willing to be sat in questioning. What they want is to get to and I understand that some people say it's from a mental health point of view. They just want, that they can't cope with being challenged because it's too much for them or whatever. But I do wonder whether that's entirely helpful, because I think part of having a decent mental health is building resilience and being challenged and feeling comfortable being challenged, not hiding away from it. Do you know what I'm saying? And I
totally get you, and I do agree, but it's tricky, because I do really believe in talking about anything, discussing anything. Doesn't matter if it's politics, friendships, what's happening in the world to our sex life or whatever, anything. But some people, so for example, my mom is very high sensitive. And I have 2 friends who are also very high sensitive. And we can still talk about anything, but sometimes they do need to say, okay, stop. This is too much for me. I don't want to delve into this now, but I will next time. So I feel as long as we're respectful and are able to put a hold on things, but it doesn't mean that we will never talk about them.
I think that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But it's where people like put their view And quite often they are strong-willed people. They put their view out on social media or whatever, and then what they do is they just block anybody that
No,
questions their view, right?
I don't know. I just don't get it, because I'm like, what gives you the right to cancel someone without maybe hearing their perspective, or just in general just saying you can't do this, or yes you can do this. I just don't get it nowadays how people feel entitled to do that, because we're all just humans and we're just trying to survive all through
Yeah.
these weird times and stuff. And it's just also about respect, because that means you don't have respect for one another. And yes, I can disagree with you, but it doesn't mean I don't have to disrespect you.
Yeah,
I can still respect you. But
exactly.
it depends, of course,
You
how
you can love someone and disagree with them.
yeah.
It's this is entirely possible, and yet we seem to have lost this as human beings. So what overall, what would you say your music says to your audience? Or do you think there is a message that they can clearly understand, or do you feel like it's open enough to interpretation that it will be interpreted in lots of different ways?
Well, it's tricky, because of course it's a bit weird to maybe say that about my own music. I like, when you go to a museum for example, contemporary art, and you look at a painting with, like, let's say a blue dot in the middle, and that's it. I would love to be that painting that keeps you staring at it and trying to find different things in it. Or my favorite painter is, not just because he's Dutch, he's just my favorite painter, is Van Gogh, because I love, whenever I see a painting of his, the brush strokes and all the layers of paint, and one bit is a bit thicker than the other, and I can keep staring at a painting of his for like at least 10 minutes, if not longer. I would love it for my music to be a painting like that. I'm not saying I'm comparing myself to the great Van Gogh, but if you can have a moment to think about it, like reflect on it, maybe with your own situation or something, that will be the ultimate goal for me. To have people listen to it, have a think about it, maybe discuss it with friends or family or with me.
Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll take it less highbrow. We'll take it down a bit. Shrek, right?
Yeah.
Onions have layers. That's what we're basically saying, right?
Yeah.
Onions have layers, and you want people to see the layers. You want people
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pick at it as it comes out, and
see the layers, and also to feel understood. So, for example, I have in the bridge of my latest single, Not Yet, is a bit where I'm saying that I'm not okay, but that's okay for me right now, because I know one day I will be better. So it's actually, instead of being a very positive ending to that bridge, it's just like, no, I feel shit now, and that's okay. And I hope that people feel supported by lyrics like that, or perspectives like that, because sometimes I feel in this world, we all have to be like, I'm a very positive person, half glass of full kind of thing. But it's also okay to not be okay, and not to be always positive.
I was just gonna ask you, do you like films where when they end, you don't know what happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not always. Depends on the mood. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a good rom-com at the end of the week when I'm super busy and just want to pass out on the couch.
And it's like everything comes together at the end.
Yeah, if I'm in the mood for like a good, serious, like indie movie, I definitely don't want to have an ending to that movie.
But that's the same with music, isn't it? And it's great, because you don't want every musician to produce music where it just makes you feel there all of the time. And sometimes you do want, with your music as well, you do want music where it just leaves you going, I don't know. That hasn't resolved itself with me, and I need to think more about this. And
that's why I love working on my EP, because you could basically figure, this song is going to be with an open ending, and this one will have a more of a rounder storyline. And I really can't wait to make a full album, because then of course you can explore that even more, not just lyrically but also musically.
I I was gonna go there as kind of a final flurry today, which is when will that happen? Do you see yourself working towards an album now?
Absolutely, because I feel if you're a real musician or want to be a real musician, you make a full album. For me, the reason why I haven't done it so far is just because I first wanted to figure out who I am musically and what my place is in the world of music. And now I know. So I feel I have more confidence for a full, like 10, 12, maybe even more song kind of album. It depends, but I would love to finish one within now and 5 years.
Yeah.
Ideally 3, but it depends.
And it has to be a great album, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I better take my time. Like for this EP, it took me 3 years, 2.5 to make it. And I have loads of ideas already what I want to write about. Like I said earlier, I feel especially women have more to write about than just love songs, and I'm ready to like write songs about my story, about my journey so far, about my childhood, about young adult life, whatever. I'm ready for that now because enough has happened to put that in, let's say, 15 songs. So I'm really excited for that. It just, I can't wait to start working on it. It's just planning wise.
What I love about you is you're exuding your absolute passion for what you do, which you don't always get with people, but you absolutely do. What is the rest of 2025 going to hold for you?
Oh, it's going to be such an exciting year. Speaking about being passionate about things, I'm so excited for this year because many firsts are going to happen this year. Like I said, my EP is my first EP, my debut EP. And I'm going to play my first headline show on the day of the release. So that will be the 23rd of May at the Waiting Room in London. And after that, I'm not sure if I already... No, I don't think I ever told about it yet. So I have a little scoop for you.
Yes.
After the release show on the 23rd, I'm going to go on tour in some venues in London and 2 venues in the Midlands.
Wow.
With probably a little extension of that in August and September in the Netherlands, but I'm still working on that, so it's not finalized yet. First tour, so that's also a little tick over there.
Nice.
And I'm already working on music for after the EP. The first single after the EP is almost finished. Second one is in the works. It's just going to be a great year. And I just really can't wait to share this EP with everyone because I've never been so proud of a body of work before. And it's just so special to be finally able to fully show myself to everyone and to just really give them a glimpse of me and not just a song, but really a piece of my heart. So I'm just really excited for that.
I am really, really looking forward to you achieving all of those.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful things. I was going to say that the other place that you need to play, of course, is the one that we talked about earlier. And I thought I'd just leave it with you very quickly. Look, we can do this quickly. Let me see if I can make this work. Yep, here we go. This is what it looks like. There you go.
Oh.
The Tivoli Theatre in
I'm gonna write
Wimborne.
it down.
How about that?
That's so sweet.
Look at the Art Deco there.
Oh, I love that. I love doors like that. That's so pretty.
That is so nice. I just think that might be it. You might just have to try and get in touch with them and see whether you can get a date in there as well.
That would be absolutely great. I'll definitely have... I just made a note of that. I'm going to email them straight away.
And it's got all the old lights inside and it's got the little booth and you could probably even have the little tea ladies and... Yeah.
Oh, I will invite them. I will invite the entire town
to
have tea during my show. That will be great.
Go. If you see that happen, folks, you know it started here, right?
All happened here.
Absolutely started here. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your music. Now, if people want to, can people pre-save any of that music at the moment? Can they help you in any way? Can they just connect with you on Instagram? Is that the best way of going forward?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I really love this conversation. You rarely go that deep when you go into chats like these. So thank you so much for that. The album, you can't pre-save it yet. I'm working on it, but you can follow me on Spotify, which is just Pien, so Pien. And if you follow me there, you get a notification of every release of every song that I will be releasing. And definitely follow me. And I'm most active on Instagram. And my name is @Pien. So that's Pien music. And then number 3, because that's my lucky number. And that's the same for TikTok. But I'm the most active on Instagram. So definitely follow me there if you want to hear more about new songs. And I'll post very regularly updates on things. And yeah, that's where you find me.
There you go. That's where you find me. 3. It's the magic number.
Always.
That will help you remember that folks. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will be inviting you into the My Music community as well.
Ooh.
We have a little online
Lovely.
community, right? So I will hopefully get you there, and maybe you'll send something for the Bald as well. These are all people that have appeared on the show in the past. Lovely looking bunch, aren't they? And then you can be there as part of the
Sweet
Hall of Fame as well. This has been the wonderful Pien, and you've been listening to My Music. If you've enjoyed this conversation, go and share it with other people so that the music that these people make gets out to more and more people out there. We will be back soon with more of these, but until then, thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.